Well, we're going to try something a little different here for part 4. We're going to do some sit-down close magic. So just a change of pace for all who've been watching the other 3. But we're going to continue our theme of just giving you a little bit of magic and a little bit of some more important things in life. Now, when I was a child, I loved to collect stamps. It was my way of getting out around the world without traveling. But it always seemed like it was so long to fill up a big empty book like this. And I thought, wouldn't it be neat if I didn't have to go through all that process of soaking the stamps off and letting them dry out and hinging them in and all that. If I could just flick my fingers and the next thing you know, my stamp album is full. And that reminds me too of how it is with our lives in Christ. Is, you know, we're empty until we come to Him. Our lives are just meaningless. They're filled with a lot of things, but it's just emptiness. But when Christ comes, He fills our life with meaning and purpose and direction and focus and makes our lives worth living. Now, God is a God that does impossible things. And so I thought, well, you know, wouldn't it be interesting just to look at impossible things? And I thought, we'll just use these little, we'll leave these little cups that will teach us about impossible things. So I thought what I would do is I would put a little ball on top of the first one. You can see it's right there. And then I'll cover it up with the second one, and then I'll cover that up with the third one. And I thought, well, wouldn't this be interesting if we could all just kind of imagine that just sinks right through the top of that cup and ends up down on the table. And there it is. I thought, you know, well, wouldn't that be neat if we could do that again? So I thought, well, let's try that. We'll put it in we'll arrange them a little different this time, and we'll put it under the blue instead of the yellow. And we'll just kind of imagine that just sinking right through there. And now, let's see if that works. We tried the yellow, we tried the blue. Let's see if it will work for the red one. Only let's make it a little more hard this time. Let's take that. Let's put it, make it go through 2 cups. You know, before you know it. And that's just to kind of remind us that even though it's impossible with us, it's not impossible with God. Now what I have here is I have a stack of quarters, and you can see this is just a standard everyday. Well, actually, it's not standard every day. This is one of those state ones that are special. And now I have a stack of quarters here. And I thought I'd let that represent all these sins that we have in our lives. And you know, there's nothing you can do to get rid of those sins. I can cover them up, but they're still there. It's just they're covered up. But I'll let this here represent Christ. And here, He comes and He covers our sin with Himself. And then we don't have to worry anymore because those sins are gone. Now, I thought also we have to look at our lives and all the time that we're out, I call this one peer pressure. You know, you're going to have all kinds of different experiences in life, just like these are all different cards. And you have the world that's trying to press you into their mold. And all these people around you, they're all different. I'm going to ask, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's about half. Would you just choose one of those 2 stacks?
Those.
That one? Okay, so get rid of these. And again. Okay, and if you would just take 2 of those and let me keep 1. Alright, and then, no, if you would, down, oops, there were my 3 balls. Now, if you would keep one of those and hand one to me. Okay, now we're going to let that card represent you. Now when you go out in the world as a Christian, you're different from the world. And our whole mission as a Christian is to be ambassadors for Christ. So that card that she selected is representing her in the world. And when she went into the world, they were all different. But if we as Christians do our job and do it correctly, we can influence the world where they all... And that's what we call sharing the gospel. Now, to look at again how God looks at our lives, you know, when we come to God, we all are different. We all have different abilities, different ways of doing things. You know, and I liken this like kids out in the playground, you know, and you have all these kids and one of them says, well, you know, I'm taller than you are, and one of them says, well, you know, I'm faster than you are, and one says, well, I'm smarter than you are, and we're all different, and that's true. But you know, when we become a Christian and we put ourselves into God's hands, God transforms us. And even though we're different on the outside, God looks at us in the inside. And on the inside, we're busy trying to be just like Him, so that we're all images of Him. Whether we stand by ourselves, whether we stand in a small group, or whether we stand in a large group, we want to all be just like Him, and He transforms us. But just remember that He takes all of those little abilities, so that even though on the outside we're little, and we're medium, and we're big, inside we're all just to be like Christ. I will show you this too. When we have fellowship with Christ, when we first come to Him, He cleans up our lives. And we're just like this rope, just smooth end to end, no flaws, no nothing. He makes us perfectly clean. But you know, some things can happen, and we can let life twist us around and turn us around. And I'll take the middle of this rope and I'll draw it up into my hand, and I will pull this out. And I'm just going to ask you, you see, when we sin and we do wrong, we sever our relationship with Christ. We sever our relationship with Christ, and we can try and repair that ourselves, and a lot of people do. We think, oh well, I'll just say I'm sorry, or I'll just hide it, and you know all that, and I'll make my life just like it was before. It'll be just perfect and restored, just like God gave it to me. Well, that doesn't exactly work, does it? It's still a mess. It's a tied up mess, but it's a mess. But see, the Spirit comes like a mighty rushing wind, they tell us. And so I'm going to use my version of mighty rushing wind, which isn't so rushing anymore, but I use my breath, and the Spirit comes in, and that sin falls away and repairs us whole and smooth again, just like we were before. And I think because of the time, we're going to draw that and make part 5 in a moment.